then you're pretty good. Here I go ahead on the right. I'm gonna go ahead and bet. As I said, I don't really worry about the flush draw. I don't want him to be able, to continue to draw at weird hands, and I think he'll probably fold. I don't want him to be able to sort of come back and bluff me if I check call. I'm in a weird position. I want to balance my range for when I have an ace. I'm not entirely sure betting there is the best. I'm sure when I get called, I'm done. I mean, when he calls that, with that ace there, I'm totally done. I'm not entirely sure betting is the best there. Check calling may be better, but I don't think he'll ever bet anything that I beat. If he thinks that I'm bluffing, he could call there with a pocket pair, but he wouldn't bet probably. I mean, that is an awkward situation. Most of the time, he's just going to fold. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that one, but I think I did the right thing, just betting, planning to fold if called or raised. It at least lets me know sort of where I'm at with one bet. If I check call, I may have to check call too because I look so weak. He would obviously assume that with an ace I would bet. Of course, in those positions where you obviously look so weak and then you call, then you have to decide whether you should call because you look weak or fold because you are weak, and it's an awkward situation. I would have much rather had that that ace not come. However, it may have saved me money. He may have had a set or something. Of course, people are showing such weird hands when I threw at them now that you never know. But as you can see, I'm getting tons of action. I mean, if I could just keep making hands and having them hold up, I would make tons of money. And I feel like hopefully some of you at lower stakes games, this will inspire you a little bit, show you that some of the higher stakes games are just as fishy as yours, and that all you need to do is build that bankroll. Because, now granted, this game I'm on the left is pretty good, even for 1-2 merge. They're not all this good. I mean, most of the time I have one guy terrible, one guy that's okay, and three other tight regulars. Sorry, two other tight regulars and me, or whatever, I guess. So I wouldn't count on everybody to just be calling all your 3-bets with 10s and then calling on a king high board. That's a little more rare, but it does happen. And if you game select, you can find these games, and you can just. I don't necessarily need to have bluff to make any money here. I mean, I made $100 in the left table by bluffing, but I probably lost 100 on the right by bluffing. And it does help though a little bit that if you can play in a way that makes the same expected value, but one of those ways has more bluffs in it, you're probably better off because you become harder to play against and more sort of annoying to play against. And people will, I feel like, tend to get out of your way a little more, maybe fold more marginal hands if they... It's weird. I say that, but I should take that back because some people they'll react in different ways. Some people will fold more marginal hands earlier on, expecting you to bet more because they don't want to deal with it, and they just go ahead and dump. Some people will also call more, knowing that you're betting more, which is probably the correct response. And so you have to figure out which way they respond. Either way, they're going to do something that you can exploit. They're either going to call more, which you can go back to value betting more, or they're going to fold more, in which case you don't need to do anything. You guys are getting a super secret look at my desktop again here. I'm starting to sort of wind down the session. I left that table on the left. I don't remember if I added another one or if I just played something else for a while. I think I looked at that table to see what happened. Pretty standard, top set versus queens. Not much you can do there. I go ahead and fold here. I think there's a hand coming up here that I wasn't quite sure about, and still I'm not quite sure about, although I don't think I played it terribly. I mean, as you can see, there's been several hands in this session that I haven't really been sure about. Normally I play so many tables that it just all comes out and it doesn't even matter what the fuck I do, because I play so many tables that, whatever small mistakes I make get made up by the big mistakes everybody else makes. And I feel like that's a big thing that matters, is that, you can make mistakes. Don't be too hard on yourself. You make mistakes, and I make mistakes all the time. As long as you're playing against people that make big mistakes, it doesn't matter if you make some small mistakes. And if you make small mistakes by bluffing too much, then you make up for that with people calling you too much in the future. And if you make some mistakes by calling too much, then maybe people will bluff at you less. No matter what mistakes you're making, it's going to do something good for you if people are paying attention. That's something important to remember. So you should always keep in mind for what your image has been. If you are tilting because, well, if you're actually tilting, you should quit. But if you make a bad bluff and you get called and everybody noticed it and it was like really like a big hand and maybe people said something, whatever, then you have a loose image now and you can capitalize on that. You can bet harder with top pairs. You can maybe get paid off more when you have sets, stuff like that. I mean, it'll do stuff for you. You're not going to necessarily lose all that money in the long run. You'll make some of it back from your new image. So I call a Jack Queen here, and I, when the pre-flop raiser checks, I think about betting, but I think I can make more money going for a check raise because the last guy will probably bet almost all of his hands. I could easily have a big hand. He probably doesn't. Now, when the original raiser calls, it is a little confusing. I'm a little confused, but I still go ahead with it because now I only have to win it like 50% of the time, and I think I do. I mean, I think he folds like ace 8, 9 8, that kind of thing that he might have called with. Um, but he calls in the end. So when he calls, I put him on like nines plus, played very strangely, 6 7. Maybe ace 8 still. Now this is the part I think checking turn is fine. I mean, him calling flop is so strong. I don't want to bet again really, unless he has like 6 7. But I go for a little bit of value here, and he has aces. I thought about this hand later, and I wasn't really. I mean, I think when somebody calls that flop, it's pretty strong. I mean, he could easily be going for a check raise again on the turn, which is why I checked. I probably would have just given up on the hand altogether because, I mean, check calling and then calling my raise. I mean, it's pretty strong, And if he's a fish, he may not fold something like an overpair or ace 8 or whatever. The only thing I'm pretty much going to get him to fold for sure on the turn is like 6 7. So I end up just deciding to give up. And then on the river, I hit a jack. I decided to bet 50 into 120. He does end up having aces, so obviously queens, kings, aces were all in his range there. I didn't think a set was in his range anymore. I thought a set would bet. I thought really a set and queens plus would all bet river after I checked turn, just trying to get something out of me. Obviously I was wrong, but that was my reads. I thought that nines plus, nines through 10, nines, tens, and eights, like just ace 8 or something, might be likely to call. I thought if he was fishy, I might get a random call from some other weird hand. Obviously, queens, kings, aces are going to call, but I thought that by him not betting, the likelihood of him having those hands to beat me were lower. And I thought that there was enough in his range that I could get away with value betting a little bit, and maybe making up for my raise earlier. And I think it's probably okay. So I'm now just recording audio over blank screen, which is because it's not terribly exciting. If anyone wants to talk about the hand, we can talk about it in the thread. Again, I don't know if I necessarily did the right thing, but I just, that's sort of how I play. I